A river flows much like the blood flowing through the human body. It flows through every place, giving us the water we need. Without it, it would be impossible for us to live. Today, I'm going to be talking about river diversion and how India's river diversion project will be a disaster. Earth has its own way of working things. It gave us water in its own natural way. We cannot change the way Mother Nature gave water to us. Dr. Latta quoted, "A river is not a pipe that we can control." The term river diversion defines as linking two or more rivers that modifies the natural flow of water. River diversion is done around the world for many reasons, such as producing food, generate electricity, and meeting the urban city water requirements. However, the main purpose is to divert excess water to drought areas. This is usually done by construction of dams, canals, reservoirs, and roads. As I said before, many countries have done river diversion in the past and still continue today. Most of the river diversion aftermath ended up in a negative way. For example, the Nile River project affected Egyptians by taking the nearest source of water. This is because throughout Africa, that is the only main source of water which they rely on. It has started in 2013. For the South North project in China, which is happening, it cost about $62 billion. In the US, Porter Valley diversion was done in the 1900s. In Canada, north of Quebec, Prime Minister Stephen Harper proposed a project called Rupert Diversion. The purpose of that diversion was to provide more electricity for a very less cost. This costed around $4 billion. However, the end result did not turn as expected. Communities around could not fish for food as the water was contaminated. Advisors had warned the people to not use the water, which impacted them very bad as they relied on it. The image shown is the way Rupert River was diverted. Apart from these diversions, India has come up with a very massive project of interlinking 30 rivers and building a length of 15,000 canal network. This project aims to reduce the continuous floods in some parts and water shortage in other parts of India, as it faces those situations on a regular basis. This project will approximately take 20 to 30 years to complete, with a cost of $87 billion. This map indicates the proposed idea on how India will divert and interlink rivers. The blue represents the natural flow of water and the red represents the proposed idea of interlinking. I believe that Indian river diversion project will be a disaster and should not be ventured. As this project will be a disaster, in India and other countries will face many issues and challenges that affect them in a negative way. The environment is very important to be considered, since the project affects it. Because of the construction of dams, it increases the rate of sedimentation that reduces the safety of dams. With that being said, 4.5 to 9.5 million hectares of land is being used just for infrastructure. This will impact the wildlife because not only their habitat is lost, but it will require them to look for a whole new ecosystem. Also, this project increases waterlogging, which means that too high groundwater, and salination, meaning that the salt being filled up in the soil, which is very toxic for the plants. Not only requires wildlife to move, but due to the construction of this project, it requires people to rehabilitate, since large strips of land is being used for canals. Because of the high construction cost, it amounts 25% of India's GDP, and present economy may not support it. Apart from the economy, there are issues that have to be addressed about neighboring countries. Since countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, and Pakistan are India's neighbors, water disputes will arise between states within the country and internationally as India plans to cut off the river which flows into their country. For example, Bangladesh relies on India's river Brahmaputra for their water. Because they are rerouting the water, Bangladesh will lose 10 to 20% of water which dry out great areas. Not only neighboring countries, river diversion also impacts other countries by trade. Some of the goods that India exports are processed by natural water. If the demand for these goods are high, this project will disrupt those industries that are producing, which in turn impacts the country's trade. According to Statistics Canada, one of the top 5 Indian exports to Canada are soybeans. Betwa River, which runs through the region, is contaminated, and by interlinking Ken-Betwa River, the production of soybean will decrease, thus impacting Indo-Canada trade. With all the issues and challenges that was discussed, there are alternative ways to divert rivers. One of the solutions is rainwater harvesting. Another solution is reducing wastage of water by farmers. Lastly, by creating public awareness. To conclude, looking at the practical aspects of India's ambitious interlinking project does not seem to be feasible and should look for alternative solutions.